What is good, YouTube? This your boy Aaron.
It's Brian.
This is the Courtside podcast. We are back today, and we are reacting to NBA free agency. Now, with the new CBA, free agency isn't going to be as impactful as we've normally seen in the past. It's a lot of smaller deals, mostly going to be from trades, mostly going to be from the NBA draft. So this free agency is going to be a lot of smaller moves, but still a lot of impactful moves that can potentially affect the overall standings of each conference, the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. So with that being said, I'm just curious with you, Brian, after witnessing all of the news regarding free agency, who do you believe has won free agency so far in your mind?
Um, who I think? I mean, I guess the easy pick would be to say the Rockets because they went in the choir. They got a Kevin Durant. I believe they signed Dory Finney-Smith, Jr. Who else did they? What else did they do?
They signed Clint Capella. They got some depth from bigs. They got a lot of depth on their bigs.
Yeah, I think the main teams people go for as far as free agency winners would be the Hawks and the Rockets. I'm confused about the Hawks one. I know they got Porzingis. They signed
Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Which is a great sign.
Luke Kennard was actually a pretty decent pickup as well. Okay. Another shooter. That's a decent pickup.
True. Okay, so yeah, they definitely boasted of it, and they still have a solid foundation. You know, they got Trae Young, obviously, Dyson Daniels.
I think Jalen Johnson.
Shea. Yeah, Jalen Johnson as well.
You know what? I actually like the Hawks. I think they're being slept on a little bit.
I think so too.
Because remember, with Indiana and the Celtics, Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton being out with those injuries, it's pretty much anybody's taken.
Yeah, it's open.
So with Jalen Johnson, and then you bring in these guys, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Luke Kennard, that's pretty damn. And then I know Porzingis, he's injury prone, and that whole situation at the end of the year, we don't know what his condition is. You know, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, but regardless,
took him to the right place.
That definitely took him to the right place. But regardless, they did acquire some talent that can really help Trae Young compete in the Eastern Conference, especially this year because it's so wide open. I like the moves, I like the additions, and if they can just remain healthy, which is a big if, I like their chances a lot. They have a lot of talent. Jalen Johnson was really coming to his own last year. It's unfortunate he got injured, but I really like this team. I really like what they're building. I have to look at the depth chart to see exactly what it's going to look like from a starting lineup and a bench perspective. But just going off of the moves that I've seen so far, they're surrounding Trae Young with enough shooting and defensive players that can hide his deficiencies on the defensive end. As long as they can continue to put a starting lineup surrounding Trae Young where everybody can guard and there's no liability outside of Trae Young, this team can really compete for potentially a conference finals appearance. So I like this team a lot. It just comes down to health, and can Trae Young get back to that 2021 Trae Young that brought his team to the conference finals, and he got a game off. I believe it was against the Milwaukee Bucks. So can he do that again? It's a possibility if they can stay healthy. Let me see here.
I like what the Rockets doing. They're going forward. They see they have after coming off a top 3 seed in the conference last year, unfortunately losing to the Warriors. Yeah, the Warriors.
Yeah.
First round. They said we need to upgrade. Jalen Green is not the guy. Mm-hmm. So we're going to need to make some shake. And I like the fact they was able to get KD without giving away really anything. I mean, Dylan Brooks is just, man, he's all right, I guess. But you still was able to keep. Piece. Yeah, he's solid.
But you can replace him.
Yeah, he's replaceable, right? You got to keep Jabari Smith. You got to keep Cam Whitmore. You got to keep obviously Amin Thompson, y'all was gonna trade him.
Steven
You got
Adams
to
as
keep
well.
Steve. Yeah, you got to keep all pretty much all your young guys. You really didn't have to part ways with anyone outside of Jalen Green. So now you still have roster flexibility. You can package. I heard they said they was dangling Cam Whitmore in trades. I'm not sure if he's going to be on the move or not, but you can still load up on more pieces with him. So I like what the Rockets are doing. They're really going for it. Yeah, man, I really can't complain.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see if there was any other big moves outside of the Rockets. I know Denver, they made some moves as well
Yeah, they got rid of Michael Porter Jr. for
and brought in
Cam
Cam
Johnson. I like that.
Johnson. Yeah,
I
because
think
Cam,
Cam Johnson's just a little more consistent and actually plays some defense.
I think with Cam Johnson, he's going to fit his role a lot better. I think Michael Porter Jr. at times he can get tunnel vision and he
I was
can
just, literally,
get in the offense his own way. So I think he's Cam Johnson is more that system player that the Denver Nuggets are looking for, and he might be a little bit better defender as well.
yes,
So I like that for the Denver Nuggets. They brought in Tim Hardaway Jr., who's another shooter who can get you 15 on certain occasions. He'll definitely play a lot better with Jokic compared to on the Pistons. Don't get me wrong, Cade is an amazing player, but he's no Jokic. They brought back Bruce Brown. I don't know if he's going to be the same Bruce Brown that he was back in 2023, so I have no clue. And then Jonas Valanciunas, he might be leaving. He might not even want to play for the Nuggets. We'll still see. I would want to play for the Nuggets. I don't know why he wouldn't want to play for the Nuggets, but hey, that's his life. He wants to do what he wants to do. But as of right now, those are the additions. I like the additions. My only question mark will probably be Bruce Brown. How well will he look? Considering the last time he was really good was 2 years ago, which in NBA years, especially as a role player, a lot of he wasn't really getting a whole bunch of PT after he left Denver. So, I mean,
true.
I'm just curious how he's gonna look. In It's been 2 years. It's been 2 years. So, um, Dallas also made some moves. They acquired D'Angelo Russell and they brought back Dante Exum. I'm not too moved with Dallas. Again, Dallas is already established. They already have pretty much the roster that they want for the entire year. So it's not much they could really do. I'm not a huge fan of D'Angelo Russell, to be honest with you. I don't like his intangibles. He's a negative defensively, and don't get me wrong, he's going to be a backup once Kyrie comes back. But for a lot of the year, you're going to have to rely on D'Angelo Russell. And we saw with him on the Lakers, with AD and LeBron, when he overstays his welcome, he just gets to become really bad. That's just who he is. From Brooklyn to the Lakers to the Timberwolves. Whenever it feels like he's overstaying his welcome, that it gets really bad. It gets really bad. Did we talk about the Lonzo Ball trade at all?
Yeah, we did. We touched on it last week.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure because let's see what else. Again, like free agency, it's not a whole lot going on.
Y'all signed dominating.
I was gonna talk about it in a little bit. So let me see if there's the Pistons they brought in some shooting. They brought in Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson. That's good. That's
Y'all
really
know my
good.
stance on Karis LeVert. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say nothing.
All right. They did bring in some shooting though. They
Yeah,
did
they
bring in
did
some
bring in some
shooting.
shooters.
All right. Oh man, the
Oh wait,
Indiana Pacers.
one thing
Yeah.
wasn't there rumors about a Dennis Schroeder and dang, who was the player they was trying to trade him for?
I don't know.
It was I thought they said some the Pistons was trying to do a Dennis Schroeder for somebody swap, but I can't remember.
Is it a shooter? Is it a?
It might have been.
He's not going back to the Pistons at all. I think he signed to the Kings. Yeah, he's signed to the
Oh,
Kings.
Malik Monk. I thought they was going to do like a
Malik
sign and
Monk.
trade for
Oh
Malik
yeah,
Monk.
right.
Yeah, that's what
Man,
I
that would
thought.
have been huge for them too. They
Yeah,
could have gotten Malik Monk, but unfortunately, man, I mean, they could. You never know. They might be able to get him, but as of right now, just looking at it, it doesn't seem like they're going to get Malik Monk.
ah,
But I will say a big surprise was Miles Turner not going back to the Indiana Pacers and signing with the Milwaukee Bucks. What is your
very interesting.
reaction to just that?
Very interesting. I believe them letting Miles Turner walk is an indicator of what their mindset is going into the next season. They know they're not going to be able to compete at a high level, so they're just saying, you know what, let's save some money, get ready for other future contracts because we got other guys on the roster we're going to need to pay, especially after this season. It's pretty much going to be kind of a wash. You may make the playoffs, but you may not. So they probably think we're not really going for it. If we was going to run it back, if we lost in Game 7 and we was fully healthy, we probably would just pay him and run it back next year. But they was like, they probably looked at his performance in the playoffs, especially the finals. He was abysmal. I mean, good grief, Miles Turner was out there just hogging up space, doing nothing and missing shots. But it was like, you know what? We ain't gonna pay him $100 million. We just gonna let him walk. We ain't gonna compete next year anyway. So, but as far as the Bucks, I mean, it's depth, I guess. I mean, well, he's gonna start, but you lost Brooke Lopez. You get Miles Turner back. Hopefully, he is consistent for y'all. I don't think. I don't know. If I'm Giannis, this doesn't really change anything. I'd still want out, but Giannis is an interesting fellow. So
$100 million. I like Miles Turner. He had a really good year for the Indiana Pacers,
he did.
minus that final series. He shot the ball well. He's going to bring a lot of spacing for Giannis. He's a starting caliber center, which is good. But the money that they gave him, especially since you had that Dame contract to deal with. And by the way, the Dame situation, that right there is
Yeah.
talk about a blunder. Talk about screwing something up.
Released them. Now you got to pay him $20 million the next 5 years.
How are you going to compete with that? How are you going to compete with that?
You
Unless
can't.
exactly, unless you trade Giannis, you have to trade Giannis at that point. If I'm like you mentioned, if I'm Giannis, I have to weigh my options. I have to consider a trade because having $20 million on the books for a guy that's not even on your team is problematic when you can't go into the luxury tax without the possibility of the second apron. And the second apron, as we all know, that's very detrimental to the money that the owner's making, that the franchise is making. It's just too much to handle.
That second
I
April series, we see what the Celtics roster looking like going into next year.
I just think the Miles Turner situation. I just think it's just a desperate move. I don't think this raises the ceiling. Does it help them a little bit? Absolutely, but I don't think it significantly puts them in like title contender. I'm looking
Nope.
at the people they resigned: Kevin Porter Jr., Bobby Portis, Torian Prince, Jericho Sims, Gary Trent Jr. Like these are guys that I mean, okay. Bobby Portis, I like Bobby
Yeah, I
Portis.
like Bobby Portis.
Porter Jr. is okay. He had a nice
Jag.
little game or two against the Indiana Pacers, but for the most part, a lot of these guys I'm not too fond of. It's not a whole
Just
lot to really get
a bunch of
excited.
Jags.
Yeah, a bunch of Jags. I'm not really excited for a lot of these dudes. A lot of these dudes should be your ninth or 10th man in a rotation, and you're re-signing these dudes to a 2-year deal. You gave Bobby Portis a 3-year extension. It just seems like the Bucks are in denial right now. They're in denial that they just need to tank. They need to just trade Giannis, figure out a way to trade Giannis and rebuild
Yeah,
because this is not a good
it's
situation.
Jover.
Yeah, it's over. I don't know why they're wasting the time. And then Giannis came out. There was a report that said Giannis came out and he's going to decide on his future around August or September. Bro, that is way too long. Why are we not wait? Why didn't you make your decision a month ago? Why are you waiting until August and September? That just lets me know that Giannis is going to remain on the roster for another year, which is dumb because your value is at your highest right now. Teams are probably like, yo, I want Giannis now. I mean, he's still at his prime. He's still at his best. I want him now. And the Bucks situation, the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get. So I don't understand both sides. I don't understand the Giannis camp. I don't understand the Bucks camp. What are they doing? You're just prolonging the inevitability that's going to happen where both sides are going to have a divorce.
Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't get it at all. It
me
makes
either.
absolutely no sense. This is malpractice of how to sabotage a franchise. This is what you don't do. This is one on one. This is exactly what you don't do if you are an NBA franchise trying to compete for a championship, trying to build a contender in 2025. You do not do something like this. This
Yep.
is something that mediocre franchises do, dysfunctional franchises do. Um, I want to say the Grizzlies made a couple of moves as well that was under the radar. They traded for Contavious Caldwell Pope. We'll see if he's able to get back to his old ways. He had a down year with the Orlando Magic. They signed Ty Jerome in the playoffs. He was pretty bad, but in the regular
Yeah.
season he was pretty decent. They lost Luke Kennard. They lost Desmond Bain. They brought in Cole Anthony. He was a nice bench player for them, who they traded in that for that Desmond Bain trade. So those are, I mean, it's all right. They all right. Like Ty Jerome's pretty decent. He's a nice bench player. Like these are good. I'll say this: these are good rotational players. You can play these guys on your bench. You can put them in a rotation. They can give you 15 to 20 minutes, and you'll be fine. My only thing is, what's the ceiling of this team with John Morant as your best player and Jaren Jackson as your number two? I don't see the ceiling being
Then
very high.
they paid Jared Jackson that money. Then he immediately has to get surgery for turf toe.
Yeah, they paid him a lot of money too. It was
Hmm
240. 240. Damn. 240 for 5 years?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And with the player option in his final year. A player option. So he has all the leverage. Player
Yeah,
option. The only thing he doesn't have is a no trade clause, which is smart because my God, if he had a no trade clause, it would have been ugly. But I think after that, I don't think there hasn't. I mean, I think it was what's his name. I know Jordan Clarkson went to the Knicks. That's a nice
yeah, I like that.
bench player that they could use, spark off the bench. But for the most part, after that, I don't think there's been any other significant moves made. I don't see it. I don't see it. So if we would rank the top contenders in the West and the East right now, who would it be? We already started last week, but now that free agency has been a week, where are you when it comes to ranking the top contenders in the East and the West? Has it changed? Is it the same? What is your rankings?
For the East, my list is about the same, except I'll give a nice mention to the Hawks. I'll probably put the Hawks right after the Pistons, I guess. Saying and on the Western Con, I don't think I did the West. So the West, obviously, number one team would be OKC. They're pretty much just running it back with the same team they got. Two, I'll probably put the Rockets because KD is a floor and ceiling raiser for them. and three Nuggets.
Yeah, I was thinking the same
Yeah,
thing.
uh, unfortunately, the Timberwolves ain't really done anything. They haven't done anything to address the reasons why they lost. They re-signed Julius Randle on a good contract, only $100 million. But they haven't done anything else. Honestly, they actually lost players. They lost Nikhil Alexander Walker. I don't. Do they have another player that's going to another guy that's going to step up and fill in that role? I don't think so. And I'm gonna have to look at that roster. But the
Yeah,
Timberwolves, to me, they got worse. And I
yeah,
don't know
they
what they got going on in that front office. It's not like they paying a whole bunch of people. I guess you're giving Ant and Gobert money. Nas Reed left as well, I believe.
no, Nas, they resigned Nas
He
Reed.
resigned him.
Yeah,
Oh,
they resigned him. They
was
gave
it
him a
to a
bunch of
lot of
money.
money?
Yeah, they gave him about 125, maybe.
Oh no. For what?
Um, I mean, he's a good player for them. He's very
Did you
important
see
for what they want to
that?
do. I
You
know
see that?
he was. I saw it. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, yeah. But he could switch. He's very athletic. He does a lot of things for him. He stretches the floor. I think the problem with Nas Reed is not necessarily his skill set. It's who is also on the team. It's Rudy Gobert, and he's making a bunch of money. So when you have those two guys making all that money, it becomes problematic. You can't really do much. I like the Timberwolves letting Nikhil Alexander Walker go. I'm not mad. The Timberwolves, what they're thinking is this: they're looking at the draft and they're saying, all right, Terrence Shannon Jr., he showed some bright, he played pretty well in the playoffs in certain spots. So if he can continue to develop, we like our chances with Terrence Shannon Jr. And then they also drafted somebody else this year in the first round with, I believe it was the 17th pick. So they're looking at it from the perspective of let's we'll re-sign the guys that we already have, our best players, and then we'll rely on the draft picks that we have, the first round draft picks that we have, and we'll develop them. So we don't have to overspend on role players that are coming up with contracts outside of the most important players that we need, which is Nas Reed. I think Nas Reed is very, very vital for what they want to do in the Western Conference if they want to win big. And I like the Timberwolves philosophy because it makes sense. In this day and age, you're going to have to rely heavily on drafting players and developing them because of the new
True.
CBA. So them going this route, they didn't do a whole lot free agency, but when you look at the draft, it makes sense. They drafted a forward this year, and and last year they drafted a guard slash forward. So it makes sense. It makes sense. And they actually have two first round. No, actually, I take that back. They were the first team in the second round. So they had the 17th pick and the 31st pick in the 2025 draft. And they drafted two forwards,
Okay.
6'9" and 6'10".
Interesting.
So they're not short at all. Pretty tall. I don't know if they're super athletic. I don't know Fleming and Behringer. I don't know any of
I've
these
heard a
dudes. I
lot of
never.
people talking about Fleming.
Yeah, I haven't seen them play, but just looking at the positions and the size, I can see what they're going for. So I like what they're doing. I like what they're doing. They didn't really have to do much. All they're gonna have to rely on is their scouting department and their developing department. So
True.
as long as Anthony Edwards can continue to improve, and also the guy Rob Dillingham, if he can develop as well, that's very important. Because remember, they drafted him in like the top 10.
Traded up for him too.
Yeah, from the Spurs. So he's another guy that they really need to see a lot of improvement from, and they're probably going to give him a lot of minutes this season.
Yep.
Those three draft picks. It comes down to those three draft picks. If they hit on those three draft picks, you're going to forget about they gave big money to Rudy Gobert. They gave big money to Nas Reed. They let go and to kill Alexander Walker because those 3 draft picks hit. That's going to be the most important thing for the Minnesota Timberwolves moving forward is will they be able to develop those guys? I think Terrence Shannon Jr., I like Terrence Shannon. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be really good for them. Just seeing how he was able to produce in the playoffs is very hard for a young player, especially the 27th pick. I think this was his second time. I don't recall him getting much minutes last year in the playoffs. So to see that he's getting a whole lot of minutes in the 2025 playoffs and for him to show a lot of good signs, I think he's going to continue to develop and gain more confidence. Rob Dillingham, we'll see next year. But that's really what it's going to come down to for the Timberwolves. Yeah. So late.
Okay.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
All right. So I'm going to do my top 5 for the Western Conference. Thunder, Denver.
Okay. Oh, you have Denver over Rockets.
My bad. I forgot. I knew I was forgetting the team. Thunder, Rockets, Denver.
Okay.
Spurs.
Wow. You really think Spurs are going to make that big of a leap?
Listen, if Wemby is healthy, I can't put it past them.
Ooh, they still. Oh, I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. I mean, I like the future
Dylan Harper
of the team.
Is who we think he is.
The problem with Dylan Harper is not that he isn't talented and he isn't going to be good. Is that he's going to be playing behind De'Aaron Fox. He's not going to have a whole lot of shot attempts and possessions to really show his talent too much. He's going to be on the bench for the most part. And he's 19.
I thought Dylan Harper plays the 2.
Dylan Harper plays the 1. Plays the 1. Yeah, he's a point guard. He's a scoring guard, but he's a point guard. So that's really mine.
How tall is he? 6'4"?
He's about 6'4", 6'5". Yeah. The problem with Dylan Harper is when you're playing the shooting guard spot off, you're not gonna get the ball as much. You're gonna have to figure out a way to move without the ball because you're gonna be off guard. So I don't know if you can play without the basketball as much. Because in college, he didn't do a whole lot of that. He was dominating the ball a lot. Yeah. So that becomes a bit problematic for me. I just think the Spurs are just still a little bit too young. I think they could be a top 6 or 7 seed. I believe they can make the playoffs. But, man, a top 4 to 5 seed, I don't see it. Not right now. I say one more year. I give them one more year, and then I'll definitely put them on that level.
Okay, that's fair.
Is that your? And then you have Timberwolves at like 5.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm not going to jump the gun on the Spurs. Okay. After what you said, I'm gonna just go Thunder, Rockets, Denver, Wolves, and the Lakers.
Really? The Lakers? Really?
No, not really. That was kind of a joke. What other team? What were the playoff teams in the West? I forgot.
You don't have to list all the playoffs. I was just talking about like contenders.
Oh, contenders?
Yeah, the Western Conference.
Oh, it's only like 3 then.
Oh, it's only 3?
Yeah, the first 3. Yeah.
Okay. So here's my thing. I want to get to the Lakers, and then I'll give you my ranking. So Lakers, they acquired DeAndre Ayton, and they acquired this guy from the Kings that I'm gonna be honest, I never heard of. I heard some good things. He could shoot. He's a good team defender, which is great. We signed him on a team-friendly deal. We let go of Dorian Finney-Smith. I will say this. I didn't like that we let go of Dorian Finney-Smith, but it did clear up cap space for us to acquire Ayton and that guy from the Spurs. So I'm not too mad at that. My only problem is that Aiton is his motor is a question. I'm not questioning his talent because he is talented, obviously, being the number one pick. I think he made the all-star team one year. He was really good with Chris Paul. It's just his motor, and I don't know if he's always going to be locked in at times. That's my question with DeAndre Ayton. And the other guy, he seems like somebody that in JJ's system with Luca, I believe he'll be a good fit for us. But DeAndre Ayton is a huge question mark. And re-signing Jackson Hayes, I didn't like that at all because I don't think Jackson Hayes is all that good. Even he's going to be the backup big, but towards the end of the season and then the playoffs, I didn't like his attitude. I didn't like how he played. He was god awful.
Was he
When
hurt?
Nah, he wasn't hurt all that
Mm,
much. He wasn't hurt all that much. He did, I think he did have he was out for a little bit. I do remember that, but for the most part when he came back, he was fine. He just wasn't good. He just
okay.
wasn't good. I remember there was maybe a 10 to 15 game stretch where he was doing a really good job of finishing around the rim. He was defending well. This was during maybe February and maybe around March. This was around the time we got rid of AD when we traded AD away, and
Oh, forgot
Luca
this.
took him about a week, and then he finally got there. I do recall that around the time AD was out for an extended amount of time, then we eventually traded him, and then Luca was out for like a week. Jackson Hayes was playing really good basketball for us, and then all of a sudden, just we get to late March, April playoffs, he got exposed. He got exposed. He was a liability on the floor. He couldn't shoot. He fouls too much. He got exposed. And I'm just not a fan of Jackson Hayes. I just wish there was a better option. I would have loved to have I'll take old ass Al Horford over Jackson Hayes. I'm so serious
Mm,
because Jackson Hayes, he's just I don't know, his IQ is just not right. And JJ Redick, he seems like he's gonna blow a fuse every time Jackson Hayes is on the court. And now you have DeAndre Ayton. Oh my gosh. You have those two dudes you got to rely on. Come on, man. At least have one smart player on the court. At least have somebody that has a high IQ that understands what the coach wants. And
mm.
we don't have that. We don't have that with DeAndre and Hayes. So I'm not too big of a fan. I like DeAndre Ayton's ability, but will he have the intangibles to be a decent center for what the Lakers need him to be? I don't know. I don't know.
My thing is like it's like you said, the motor. Like I don't like guys that have effort concerns because you can't teach effort. And there's a lot of times I've seen that man just disengage. He had chances to get offensive rebound. He just stood there. I'm just like, what are you doing? Go attack the glass. And the fact he said he has poor attitude and stuff like that. But you could attribute that to being on the Trailblazers, but I feel like how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you getting pissy on the bench and not start being late for practices and stuff, who's to say it won't happen just because you went to another team? So I don't know. And for the Lakers as a whole, I'm sorry, I don't think this team is going to go very far when your primary on ball defenders is Luca and
LeBron
freaking
James.
Austin. Well, oh, yeah, LeBron, 41-year-old LeBron James, your best
No,
defender on the starting
that's
lineup,
defender.
and you
Yeah.
got Luca and Austin Reeves on the court at the same time trying to guard the. Like it's just not going to work. It's not going to work.
It's not gonna work. You're right. You're right about that. That's why we need to make a trade. And Pat Riley, his old ass needs to somebody need to check on Pat Riley because I don't know what type of drugs he's smoking right now, thinking that we're gonna give him Dalton Connect, Roy, and a first round
Oh,
pick
for
for
Wiggins.
Andrew Wiggins. Everybody and their mama know Andrew Wiggins. He's not worth no first round pick. And he damn sure ain't worth Dalton Connect and Roy. That's ridiculous. With the contract that he's making, we're helping him out by freeing up money on his books. Why would we give him all that to acquire to get a guy back that's making all that money and is 30 years old. Stop it. That's ridiculous. If I'm the
Dang, Andrew
Lakers,
Wiggins is 30.
yeah,
He was
He's
old.
30. Yeah, he's 30. I mean, that's not in basketball terms nowadays, that's not too bad, but he's 30 years old
I know,
and
but like
he's making all that money in this CBA for the quality player
it's
he is.
strict. It's strict. Yeah.
I don't think it's worth it to give up all that. And people on Twitter, like, they really don't understand. They don't know basketball at all. They're saying, "Man, I would just do the deal in a heartbeat and just let it be." Like, no,
And that's
are
why
you
they're not
dumb?
GMs.
Exactly, because say what you want about Dalton Connect, he showed some signs of a really good player for us during the season. I remember he scored maybe 35, 36 points in a regular season game. I forget what team it was, but he was getting quality minutes and he was lighting up the opposing team. He was shooting the ball very effectively. The only reason he couldn't really get on the floor is because of his defense. And his size, his athleticism, he has a 40-inch vertical. I think Dalton Connect has the capabilities of being a decent defender, of being a plus defender. He was just young. He's young, first year in the league. It's not going to be easy for him. You don't give up on a guy for Andrew Wiggins. You don't just trade a guy like that for Andrew Wiggins. That's stupid. That's a bad trade if you're the Lakers. 17 pick in the draft. When we drafted him, everybody and their mama said, "Oh my God, that's a steal. He should have went earlier for a reason." Yeah, he's 24 years old, but he's still on a rookie contract. You don't just trade somebody with that much potential on a rookie contract for a guy making 30 million a year. That's dumb. Who's 30 years old? That's dumb. You don't do that. Roy Hashimura, on
Yeah.
the other hand, I think he's expendable because we already have enough offense where we can pretty much cover up whatever Roy gave us offensively. We need somebody, a 3-and-D guy, knock down threes that can defend on the perimeter. Andrew Wiggins fits the bill, but Pat Riley wants to be stingy. So
Yeah.
the only other guy I could think of off the top of my head is a Herb Jones, but we would have to give up probably Austin Reeves for Herb Jones and
Absolutely.
maybe a first round pick. So the only way I would give up Dalton Connect is if we're getting back a young player in return, a really good young player like a Herb Jones. That's the only way I could see us giving up Dalton Connect. Other than that, I'm not trading Dalton Connect because he's a valuable piece from a financial perspective and a potential perspective. He could be very valuable for this team going forward. That's just people just are dumb, man. They're just dumb.
Yeah, I wouldn't try to make no deals with New Orleans because I know they're gonna try to recoup that first they gave up next year.
Uh you can finesse New Orleans. You can finesse them. You saw what we did to them when we got
They said
Anthony
Anthony
Davis.
Davis,
Yeah, you can
and
finesse New
don't get me
Orleans.
started on that foolishness.
I remember when people was like, "Oh my God, New Orleans, they they won the deal hands down," and then now Hart is
None
gone,
of them
and
players are on the team.
they're not on the
Well,
team
AD
anymore.
not
And,
on the team no more either. So
and the first round picks that they use, where like are are they even good? Seriously, what happened to the first round picks we gave them?
wasn't Trey Murphy a product of one of them picks?
Um, hmm, I don't know.
And
That's a
Herb
great.
Jones?
Let me see. Make sure. Let me make sure. Let me make sure. Because I think Trey Murphy, that might have been their own pick because he may have went high in the draft. Let me check. Murphy
I
draft.
know the only definitive person I know from that class is Zion. So that they
Let's
got
see.
from the directly from the Lakers is Zion.
So was the 17th pick in the 2020 NBA draft by the Memphis Grizzlies. He was then traded to the New Orleans Pelicans. So that was the Grizzlies pick, and they traded Trey Murphy to the Pelicans.
Okay.
And Herb Jones. Let me see, Herb. Jones draft pick. Herb Jones was a second round pick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually, it's the same draft. It was in 2021 draft. So they got Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. Damn, that was a good draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Too bad you ain't got nothing to show for it, but
I don't think those are the Lakers picks.
okay.
So
Well, they screwed that up.
yeah, I mean, I'll check later to see
Yeah,
what happened with
yeah.
those Lakers picks. But right now, regardless, they they got to find a 3-and-D guy. Who is that going to be? I have no clue. But you can't come into the season with your starting lineup being LeBron, Luca, Austin Reeves, Roy, and Ayton. Like that's not going to work. I wouldn't even put Reeves in my starting lineup. Like there's no way I will put Austin Reeves in my starting lineup, and there's no way I would want to put Roy Hashimura in my starting lineup.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
But I mean, something told me they like trying to. They're not really trying to compete for a title this next season, because it just seems like they're just planning for post LeBron.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. They want to clear the books. Just going off of some of the reports regarding this standoff between LeBron and the Lakers, it seems like the Lakers are waiting for his money to clear the books, and then they could finally have some flexibility and figure out, okay, who can we bring in, what players can we bring in with the amount of money that we have now to help surround Luka, because LeBron at this stage of his career, as great as he is, he's not that same caliber player that he once was, where he makes $52 million a year and he significantly boosts the trajectory of the team. That's just not the case. He was second team All NBA, and arguably, in my opinion, I thought he should have been first team, but he's just not the caliber player where $52 million is rewarded for a $52 million caliber player. He's just not that type of player anymore. So, yeah, the only thing we could do is trades. That's really all we can do at this moment. And I don't want to give up the first round pick unless it's a very, very talented young player in return. So we're stuck. LeBron would have not opted in. We would have had a lot of flexibility, but because he opted in to the 52 million, which if I'm LeBron, I would have done the same thing, because
I know, right?
teams were not going to give you $52 million, $54 million to play basketball when you're going to be 41 in the 2026 season. So I wouldn't have done that. I mean, I would have done that. I would have opted. So from a financial perspective, it makes the most sense. But if you're really, really trying to win a championship for the Lakers, then you don't do that. But
yeah,
hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. He's saying he wants to compete for a championship, but LeBron is smart. He knows. Come on now. He wants his money. He wants his money.
He know what he's doing. He know what he's doing.
And the league, and according to reports, the league, a lot of the teams don't want to trade for LeBron.
Honestly, I wouldn't want to either, unless I'm like a team that's like the Cavs or something, that's like we going for it all this shit because of how weak the East is. Get one good year out of LeBron and then whatever. But other than that, if I'm like the Pitt, I'm not trading for LeBron, honestly. At this stage, getting all that money he making and all the media nonsense, and I'm just like, eh.
But if you're the Cavs though, LeBron is 40 years old. There's a potential that this could be his last year. Do you want to trade for LeBron and give up Jared Allen and potentially a Darius Garland, or the guy that they just traded for last year? Do you want to trade those guys? Hunter, yeah, Hunter.
If it takes 3 players for LeBron James, I'm cool. I don't want the. Nope, I'm hanging up the phone.
Because you got to remember the salaries have to match.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So the only way the salaries are going to match if you trade potentially Hunter and Allen. Do you want to do that just for a year for LeBron?
I don't know. I think what's funny about that. You brought up that this may be LeBron's last year. I think there was I don't know where this was, but I think it was caught on like a hot mic, and he was saying like Savannah wanted him to retire.
Yeah,
Like this was wanted him to play one more year, this last year and retire or something like that. Like,
yeah.
oh, unless he pull a Tom Brady, he gonna be.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, that sounds like Tom Brady situation. I hope everything's good at
I think
home.
LeBron should retire. Honestly, he doesn't have anything left to prove.
He doesn't really have anything to prove at this point.
People already call him the GOAT.
Yeah,
So I mean,
there's a bunch of young
another
people
ring
that call him dope.
would kind of solidify his case or whatever. But I mean, it can't really hurt. The only thing, unless you win a championship, no other accolades is going to be like, oh my gosh. It's
But
like, oh, okay,
the
yeah,
money
money.
though, 52,
LeBron,
54 million.
nearly a billionaire. He don't need no more money.
Shit, hey, it don't matter how much money you got right now. An
That man
extra
probably
54
got another
million.
$50 from his in sponsorships and endorsements.
Shit,
That boy,
54
that man got
million.
so much money.
54, an extra 54 million won't hurt you.
Oh,
You're not gonna make that easily.
It wouldn't hurt. Especially where them LA taxes set up. But
Yeah. All right, so my rankings of the East and the West right now, I would have number 1, obviously OKC. Number 2, I would have the Rockets. Number 3, I would have Denver, and then number 4, I would have the Timberwolves. Those are my contenders. I think the Timberwolves, the way that it's going right now, I believe that their young players, the guys that they drafted in 24 and 25, are going to continue to develop, and that's going to help them throughout the season. I like the Rockets' move. They're ready to win now with Kevin Durant, and they still have a bunch of their players that they drafted, minus Dylan Brooks. Well, Dylan Brooks wasn't a guy that drafted; they acquired free agency. But besides Dylan Brooks, who they traded, and Jalen Green, I still like this roster a lot. They're very talented. They have a big rotation that I really like with Adams, with Capella, and with Sengun, Jabari Smith, 3-and-D guy, wing defender. So Amin Thompson, he's going to continue to get better. And then Fred VanVleet is on a team-friendly contract. I just like the way that the Rockets are going right now. They have a lot of different ways that they can beat you. They have a lot of different lineups that they can throw on the floor that they can utilize when competing against the top teams in the Eastern or Western Conference. So I like the Rockets in that scenario. In Denver, they acquired some small pieces, but it's going to help with the bench, which they needed a lot during the playoffs because that bench was trash, and they still took the OKC Thunder to 7. So the bench is going to really help this year for Denver, and Cam Johnson as a 3-and-D guy. On the Eastern Conference side, I think number 1.
Would 5 be the Clippers for the West?
I'm not going to put the Clippers as a contender. I think those 4 guys, those 4 teams.
Oh, those are contenders. Okay.
Yeah, those are contenders. Those are 4. Okay, I think those are the 4 teams that can contend in the Western Conference, in my opinion. And then when I go out East, number 1 for me is the Cavs. Well, they brought in Mike Brown for the Knicks, which I like as an offensive coach because he did a great job for the Kings. I still have to see the coaching staff.
They were abysmal.
They were. I think part of that is going to come down to the coaching staff, who Mike Brown picks as his coaches. Because he's with the Knicks, they have a lot of money. I think the Knicks will be able to acquire one of the top assistant coaches, defensive-minded assistant coaches. Man, this is tough. I think I'll go with the Cavs in number 1, just for the simple fact they won 60 games last year. They have a talented team with Evan Mobley. We'll see the whole situation with Darius Garland and Jared Allen. I don't know what they're going to do with them, but they still have a very talented roster. I'll go with Cavs at 1. I'll go with Knicks at 2. 3.
Pistons.
3. Nah, I don't know.
No?
Pistons. Nah, I don't know about Pistons.
Who else? The Magic?
As contenders, I probably go.
Oh, contenders. Oh, shoot. It might just be 2 then.
I think it's really 2 for me. It's really two for me. I think it's Cleveland and
New
it's the
York.
Knicks. Yeah, everybody else is a crapshoot. So those are my contenders for the NBA championship next year. It's really six teams in my opinion, and everybody else is really coming in below. It's like a different tier in my opinion. So that's how I look at it. And we can move on. We can move on.
Yeah.
So let's see here. What else I got? So
2000s basketball.
okay, so I was going to do we were going to do the top 10 list. I decided to put it off until next week because I need more time, need to do more research, watch more film of these players to get a honest assessment of who I want to rank from 1 to 10. I have my top 3 is solidified, but 4 through 8 it gets dicey for me. So I want to make sure that I make the appropriate decisions on my top 10 list. So I'm going to put that off until next week. Don't worry, we're going to get to it a little bit later, but I want to get to this conversation because I've done a lot of research regarding different eras for my top 10 list. And I thought, why not bring this conversation up about the 2000s since I did a lot of research on it? I want to make an argument for the 2000s being the toughest era of basketball.
So what do you mean by toughness? Toughest era of basketball. Do you
So
mean by teams, level of talent, the way the game was
the
played?
toughest era to score, just the toughest era in general, because during that time there was a transition. There was a transition period during that time, and the personnel wasn't equipped for the type of rules that were placed during that time. It took a long time until around the 2010s for teams to finally adjust to the rules. So let me give a history lesson. So around 2002, 2001, 2002 season, a legal defense was finally allowed. So zone defense was allowed, which gave way to a lot more complex defenses that teams could run that they couldn't do in the past. Zone defense, hedging, all type of different concepts that wasn't allowed pre 2001 2002 season. During that time also, hand checking was still allowed. So you had hand checking and then you had these new defenses that were allowed. Think about how hard it is for an offensive player to where you have to worry about hand checking, zone defense, hedging. Very
Yeah,
hard.
especially in an era where the three ball wasn't as
Wasn't as prevalent.
emphasized. Yeah.
I was watching Mind the Game, and Kevin Durant and LeBron talked about the spacing, talked about that era of basketball, that 2000s era where, yeah, we're in a different decade, but elements of that 90s basketball was still prevalent in that era
A
because
lot of dudes in that era played in the 90s. Yeah, AI, KG, Kobe, Shaq.
the caliber of players, the archetype of players were still prevalent from that 90s generation. So when you implement those kind of rules, it's going to take a while before the league catches up and finally adjusts and brings in the right caliber of players that fits into the type of defense that's being thrown at these teams that with these offensive schemes. So with that being said, it became very difficult for teams to score and the pacing went down a lot. I have notes on this. I want to show the specifically the pace of the game during that era. I want to show something. Let me see if I can find it. Um, shit. do have it. Here it is. This basketball. You can find this on Basketball Reference, by the way. Basketball Reference has pretty much everything you need. But let me share my screen real quick. Here we go. Might be hard to see, but let's see. Pacing. Here it is right here. Pacing. So pacing right here. The highest. So unfortunately, when we look at the 60s, they couldn't track 60s, but by all measurements, by all what I heard, the 60s was the highest pacing ever in NBA history. And when you watch the film of 60s basketball, they're just going back and forth. It's nonstop. And so it's a lot of turnovers. But when you go to also the 70s as well, it's the same thing. But when you go to the 2000s, look at the pace. It gets slower, 91, 91, 90. These are the early 2000s. Why? Because the rules changed. And teams didn't know how to adjust. They slowed the game down a lot more, which made it to where offensive players weren't scoring the ball as much.
Yeah, that era, the NBA dead ball era.
There you go. And then if they did score the ball a lot, it wasn't at a good efficiency compared to previous eras. 1980s, 1990s, 2010s, 2020s, 1960s, etc. You get the point. But the 2000s was the era where guard play and wing play, the efficiency wasn't all that great compared to other decades. And it's because of the rule change. And it took a long time for people to adjust. So when you see Kobe, Vince Carter, Allen Iverson, all of these guards, Tracy McGrady, and they're shooting 45%, they're shooting 46%.
Steve Nash.
Steve Nash. Well, I think Steve Nash was actually one of the rare cases where he was actually very efficient. But look at this. This is 90 now, 90, 98, 99. This was a lockout season, so I'm not going to count that. But 2003, 2004, 44%. 2002, 2003, 44%. 2000, 2001, 43%. Now, this is before the rules, but still 45%. 2002. These are some of the lowest field goal percentage ever in NBA history. And this is all in the early 2000s when zone defense was implemented and hand checking was still enforced. It wasn't
That's why the Pistons was running people's pockets back in them days.
Now, you can make a legitimate argument that by me saying that it was hard to score in that era, you can also make a legitimate argument that it was the easiest era to defend. And I'm not going to argue that, because by all metrics, it was the easiest era to defend because you had the ability to hand check, and also zone defense was a part of the defensive scheme, and hedging was a part of the defensive scheme. But my whole point about why the 2000s is the hardest era to score is just the defense was harder. The personnel wasn't equipped for the era and for the rule changes. And even still, guys like Kobe, guys like AI, guys like Tracy McGrady, Carmelo, LeBron James, even Kevin Durant to a certain extent, because he was there in like 09, 08. These guys were still able to dominate. Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, these guys, Dirk Nowitzki, Steve Nash, Dwayne Wade, these guys were still able to dominate in an era where the scoring, the defense, it was a lot harder. So you have to give Tim Duncan, you have to give Kevin Garnett, you have to give Dwayne Wade, Kobe, LeBron, Carmelo, Dirk, Iverson, even also Chris Paul as well. You have to give these guys credit because they played in such a difficult era to score. Kevin Durant was on also JJ Redick's podcast, and he talked about this. He talked about how guys were just packing the paint. The only thing you could do was shoot mid-range jumper. You couldn't drive to the basket because they were packing the paint. They put a wall in the paint. So what are you going to do? So that's my argument. We need to appreciate the 2000s a lot more, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of good basketball, even though it was slower. The game was slower, and you make valid points. You know, the whole rule adjustments. Like, we didn't really see a bunch of offense until like the 2000s. I mean, 2010s and whatnot.
The Curry
Yeah,
came
like
in the
after
fold.
2013, that's when we really started seeing consistent offensive scoring output on a high end, which is how it led up to what we have now, which people think is completely out of control. But I mean, hey, it's the nature of the game. Unless they change some rules, it's just going teams are just going to get better at scoring.
So back to my point on the era. Look at the points per game. This is 03-04, 93 points per game. 02-03, 95 points per game. 02, 95 points per game. You get my point. Like,
yeah,
it's very low scoring. Very low scoring for that era. And the pacing was a lot slower. Field goal percentage, one of the worst ever. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. And if you were a great player at that time and you were averaging 30, come on now. Jordan,
it was like that.
Even Jordan, there was a quote. I forgot who it was. I think it was Sam Smith. I have it too. But Jordan, he complained about the idea of allowing zone defense in the NBA. I have the article. Let's see if I can give it real quick. Because Jordan, he benefited from not having to deal with zone defense back in the day. So let me see if I can find the quote. Okay, so here it is. Well, the Basketball Network raised an interesting point and sparked conversation recently about unearthing reporting from longtime Chicago Bulls beat reporter Sam Smith that Michael Jordan was adamantly opposed to the inclusion of zone defense. Jordan was making an impassioned plea before the competition committee that had gathered to consider rule changes to enliven the NBA game. Jordan spoke passionately. If teams were able to play zone defense, he said he never would have had the career he did. Think about that for a minute. Think about that. Jordan admitted that if zone defense was allowed back in his era, he wouldn't have dominated as much as he did.
Speaks volumes.
That just lets you know how impressive it was for a guy to average 30 on 45% field goal during the 2000s. When people say, oh, Kobe, inefficient. Well, how many shot attempts did he have per game and what field goal percentage? And compare that to another guy that you look at and you say, oh, he's efficient.
My whole thing with the Kobe inefficiency argument, it lacks so much context because name me one Lakers team where he had another scoring option.
It does.
That can create his own shot.
So
doesn't exist.
So Kobe would have in 06, Kobe averaged 27 shot attempts a game and shot 45% from the field, averaged 35 points a game. You know how hard that is? That is hard to do. People don't realize that, especially for an era where zone defense was allowed. All these complex defenses were allowed. And I'll even take it further. We can go back when hand checking and zone defense was allowed. He averaged 30. And he shot 23 times a game on 45% field goal percentage shooting. What are we talking about? That's hard to do. That is hard to do. But yeah, that's my argument. I just think that the 2000s was the hardest era, in my opinion. Harder than the 60s, harder than the 70s, harder than the 80s, 90s, 2010s, 2020s. And yeah, that's all I got to say. I think that'll do it for this episode of the Courtside podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, hit the notification bell, follow the socials, and we will see you all in the next episode of the Courtside podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.
Salute.
All right.